Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Reaction Time, where we're here to react to you, but mostly to sit here and watch Steven be sad about Team Liquid.
I'm so sad.
That's the point of this show, is to watch Steven be sad.
This is
So
brutal.
we are coming to you on Wednesday nights. We are through the first round robin of the main group stage of the tournament. As we speak, every team in group stage has played 3 games and has 3 games remaining. And games have a day off tomorrow, which makes this the perfect time to record. So there are no games tomorrow, but they pick back up on Friday morning, and we'll be out of group stage by Sunday, which, um, as we will talk about to open up, might be the sweet release of death for fans of Western League of Legends at a certain point, because the stats are out there. You can go on Reddit and see them. You can go on Twitter and see them. But the fact remains that no team from North America or Europe has won more than 1 game to this point in the tournament. Of the 7 teams combined from those regions, there are, I think, let me see if I can count right.
One,
Oh no,
two.
sorry, it's
There's only 6.
didn't you have no, it's
You're
only
down to
six. Only
3.
six. That's why I can't count.
They
So
lost
of
their
the six
seed because they
teams,
didn't do
there
as well
there
at
is a
tournaments.
combined um 4-14 record thus far, with I think at least 2 of the wins coming against other teams, contributing losses to the uh standings. It's bad, boys. It's bad for everybody.
I'm baffled, honestly. Like, just at this point, like we should be performing better as the other half, I guess.
Do you agree, Eric? You look like you want to disagree with that point.
I kind of do disagree. Like it is kind of to the point that it is baffling. Like we saw this split, teams in NA and EU look better than they did last split, which leads you to think though that oh my gosh, if they got better, like did the other regions also improve? Or like how badly would every region have gotten stomped at MSI if they went into halfway through the year? But they've looked pretty trash. And then I think
Yes.
I mean obviously the big like Fnatic gets some slack, but not that much slack. Um, you can blame some things on definitely having a significant downgrade to one role due to personal issues, but they're still playing like Fnatic. They're just not good enough, and so from there it's pretty brutal.
The so I want to give credit where credit is due. The only win of Western team over not another Western team and not DFM is Mad Lions beating Gen G. Um, so I'd like to start there because um mad respect to Mad Lions for that win, particularly after losing their opening game to TL, which now looks worse.
Yes.
Because Mad would had Mad beat TL, this is a different conversation because they'd be in a very good spot moving forward in this group, and instead it's a different look. And BDD in Gen G's other 2 games has looked like he's in the best form he's been in years.
Yeah.
So for Mad to get a win over that Gen G team is huge, and it is why they still have a snowball's chance, because they're the only team of the 6 that's proved they could beat the teams they need to beat to get out of this group. So let's start with Mad. What have you seen that you've liked? What have you seen that you've disliked?
Um, well, one thing that I liked is that they can still pick Wukong, and when they pick Wukong, they can win games.
Yeah.
Um, They also showed that they can have Kaiser play Yumi and still not have engage issues. Like, that was the other part of that game. Well, on one side, it's like, yes, it's Yumi, which is a power pick and has been like perma banned now that teams have proven that they can win with the champion. On the flip side, it shows that here's a team who relies on an engaged support player who can play with him on a cat and then still actually succeed in the gameplay. Now, Kaiser got like gigafed in that game, if I remember correctly, which contributed immensely to them winning. But it still shows that like they can operate on the power picks in the meta with the LeBlanc, with the cat, and still play their own special sauce and have a really good game.
I thought it was interesting that Elyoya's 3 games thus far are the J4 game against TL, which was bad, the Xinjiao game against LNG, which was bad, and then this massive fucking huge balls to Leah or what's her
Kiana.
face? That's Leah.
Kiana.
Kiana game against Gen G, 11-4-12, highest kill score in the entire tournament in one game. Why are they not playing around the assassin junglers more? There's more than one out there. They're not getting banned out. That confused me in their pick ban against LNG because that seemed to work well for them.
Confidence.
Confidence, and then also like Xin Zhao and Lee Sin are still the power pick junglers who every team is going to prioritize no matter what. And then it just was really brutal into this LNG comp because like a part of what makes Xin so good is the ability to shut off ADCs, especially auto attack based ADCs from range. And so here LNG played Jin into this comp, as well as with the Camille in top lane, and then also with Syndra in mid. And so like their comp is actually like really prime positions for Xin Zhao to not have the same impact it would against a lot of the other ADCs in the meta. And then that really put their comp in a dangerous spot as far as like you prioritize the pick and then things went downhill. And they started okay, like for like the first like 20 minutes of that game, and then it's just like a few disastrous plays, and then it tanks very quickly. So like their ability to team fight was really brought into question against LNG in this game, and then what they could actually win with on the map. Nar,
Yeah,
by the way,
it's
I don't.
funny looking at the gold graph of this game. It was even at 21 minutes, and then they lose at 26.
Yeah, and like if you look at like the the damage distribution graph for that game, you can kind of also see that like Armut was doing everything he could in the early game there, but then once they started taking the team fight phase, then they didn't get the Gnar plays that they really needed, comboed with the rest of their comp. Karzi's damage wasn't particularly high enough, or humanoids, in order for them to be able to really tough out these fights. I think it was a bit of a compositional mismatch that they might have gotten away with in EU against teams that are worse at team fighting. But the LPL teams are not going to sit back and let you show up with some easy execution champs and hope that's good enough.
Yeah, I do not like the Gnar in this scene. Like, personal bias aside, it's just like the windows of opportunity are not going to be allotted in this upper echelons of play. It's not going to happen.
The J4 pick sucks. I'm just gonna say it. That was bad.
So like which is really fascinating, right? Because in play-in stages, teams were flexing J4 between like top lane and jungle and doing other things, particularly to put more money on it. That does not work against good teams. Pretty safe to say. And then also like slower speed junglers have been getting punished in this meta. You still need power. You still need speed clear for early game. You can't completely surrender your early clear. Or you need to do what Steven kind of suggests in our duo lane video and go even harder on snowballing this top lane if there's no flashes, where it's like gank level 2, don't pull clear, just like show up immediately to snowball your lane, and teams haven't been willing to do that. So
well, certain teams, and this is where I'm going to double down and have a slightly contradictory statement. J4 is good if you're going to play around it and play with like confidence, like that's the big thing. Like the teams that aren't showing up on this J4 are not utilizing it correctly, where you have to go hard, like absolutely like throw it all on the wall, get some picks, and funnel that money somewhere that's going to be valuable. So you have to pair it correctly. Like when we saw it successful, putting the like Kiana and a Jarvan top would be worth it because you can have that Jarvan really well. Jax and a Jarvan would be great because you're putting money on your Jax. If you're going to do it, you can't just like, oh, I'm going to like full clear on my Jarvan and then maybe take the Scribbler as like my top lane is just getting like banged by 3 people showing up top to give that gold over. Like, it's just not going to work.
So an example of the Jarvan jungle working was specifically, speaking of ganking early and often, was the RNG PSG Talon game, where Xiaohu played top Syndra. So they had Syndra top into Kennen, and Hanabi wasn't let to play League of Legends, which is pretty good because Hanabi's been stomping every other.
I was gonna say,
in that
looking
group.
at PSP's other 2 games, it is good when Hanabi is not allowed to play League of Legends if you want to win the game.
Yeah, because that comp from RNG was like Syndra top lane, J4, TF, Misfortune Rel. And so the entire point of this comp is you gank every lane to Xiaohu in the early game, you snowball through top lane, and then you J4 Rel ult the enemy team and just layer ults over the top of it. And that's their entire game plan, and it worked like a charm. They absolutely smashed going through top, and it's like if you look at like damage share in that game, it's like all Xiaohu, and then everyone else.
Because that was the
like,
plan. That was
the whole plan. And
do.
so that is the way you can do it. It's just you have to like gank early and often. It's really about lanes. You're not playing for this full clear style. And so like if you're playing like a high gank assist but low clear speed jungler like Jarvan or heaven forbid Sejuani, that better be how you're playing the game.
Yes. Because you will
However,
lose.
it can still also not work. May I present a counter argument to your counter argument in featuring another PSG Talon game, PSG against HLE. Willard level 2 ganked bot lane, and Unified and Kywing weren't allowed to play the game for the first 10 minutes of that game because they kept shoving hard into the Draven lane. However, y'all kill stole from Draven like 4 times, and it was bad.
And I will also say the emphasis on bottom lane. Why? Why are you putting your assets there in bottom lane? I get for the Draven. I get the Draven, but that's not the play you take. That's not what this is supposed to do.
Draven Pike, so I understand why they went bot lane that game.
But did you give it over to the Draven? Like the whole thing is like
they actively kill stole from the Draven twice.
So
that's like emphasizing the argument. Like that's just like solidifying it. That's another.
I think that's HLE being bad at the game.
Yes, I agree with that. Like, it's really just been the Chovy show and Chovy and Deft, and you hope that they work.
Chovy played that game mediocrely.
Yeah, and that was not one of Chovy's good games so far. And also, like, man, did they like give up every power pick in this meta in that game? Like they gave up the Yuumi, they gave up the LeBlanc, they gave up Talon, they picked J4 into Talon, which is why. Why would you do this? Or like another, because like Talon was like first rotation. They might have
you let Gwen have a free lane and farm 10 CS to the 10 CS per minute.
Yeah, like it's just absolutely atrocious, and I don't, or was it Gwen first pick? It looks like it was Gwen first pick, I'm guessing, and then they picked Camille Jarvan into Gwen. And then they immediately locked Talon LeBlanc. And so, like, all of a sudden, they didn't prioritize... Either way you look at it, they didn't prioritize the LeBlanc pick. Or is this...
I don't think it's in order.
I don't have pick order.
Games of Legends.
Oh, no. Well, any way you look at how pick ban worked out on this, like, the Talon being up and then you locking J4 is really atrocious. and then things went poorly very quickly because like you letting through Yumi and these other picks is very dangerous. You shouldn't give up Yumi with assassins, in general.
And okay, like I'm gonna sidebar here onto HLE because they're the one Eastern team that's looked kind of like garbage. I told you all about this team. Like their top
We've
side
been
sucks.
warned.
Their top side is terrible, and like Solo lost them this game. Um, Deft had his oopsie in today's game, but the top side was bad again today. Like you you see why this is Chovy Life Esports if you've now watched these three games. Like they did get their one win over
Fnatic with Bean, yeah.
over Fnatic, possibly the weakest team of the tournament, not through any fault of their own, and have looked bad in their other two games. We can talk about Eastern supremacy all we want. HLE is not a good team.
Maybe Team Liquid could pick up Chovy on the cheap.
Unlikely.
I mean,
Very unlikely.
Core is going local, so that
On the
slot
cheap
opens
is
up.
a stretch because
On the
like
cheap is a very strong stretch. It'll cost more than Perks if
Oh.
any Korean orgs know what they're doing.
all of
Really? Okay.
all
Yeah.
of all of Chovy's former teammates have moved to the LPL. So
He will
getting
get
him
Chinese.
to
That where the money is. There do be money there.
don't like it won't be on the cheap. It would involve a significant amount of money.
If any smooth talker is gonna do it, it'll be Steve. So I trust.
Insert the money gun gif here.
Yeah.
So I needed to talk about HLE because they're like we're putting them out of the conversation of the Eastern teams because I don't think they're good and they're not playing well. Also, Deft is not a Draven player. Of all the people to lock in Draven in this tournament, why was he's now 0-3 career on the pick, as opposed to the number of assorted Draven one tricks we have in other teams at this tournament?
It does seem like there's a lot of hubris going on in some of these games now, where like we've already called out, the Western teams don't look good. And so in these games against the NA and EU teams, sometimes some crazy pick bans happen. The other case in point I have for that is the absolutely magnificent Chef's Kiss draft and game from T1 earlier today against 100 Thieves, where they locked Jungle Poppy, was in this comp, and then proceeded to be winning in all three lanes and in the jungle on CS, which is a nightmare, and there's not really much to say that could redeem that game from 100 Thieves. So it looks pretty atrocious. A part of me, and this could be the copium talking now, we have lost hope, but like it could be the fact that like this tournament and the setup for it is still like, while Riot is doing the best job they can, is still garbage for players. Where like for 100 Thieves, for example, Closer didn't get a visa to get to Europe in time for this tournament until like 2 days before they started playing games. So they actually didn't get scrims in until like 2 days before groups started. They had no boot camp. There was no opportunity to play games until like right before the event, according to like a Freeze interview. And so it's like when you hear this going into this event in Iceland, so this is in Iceland, this is not even in China, that like getting people into the country was still miserable. The fact that they've been confined to like these hotels in Iceland, and apparently people are wimps when it comes to food. And so then like all of a sudden like you have all these combined factors where like apparently a lot of players have low mental resilience for what's going on, and I think it is showing. Like people aren't playing well, and so I wonder like how much of this tournament as well as last World like are going to show up in people's list of like great events, because
If I may add another quote here to back up another factor that may cause this to be bad. C9 Vulcan quote today from an interview with, I assume, Travis or Fion, I think. C9 Vulcan quote: "Our mid game has been pretty lackluster, pretty bad. It's getting exposed against some of the best teams in the world. we've been doing fine in scrims against NA and EU teams for the most part, but when we scrim against Asian teams, we're getting fisted. Again, his words, not mine.
And so it does look like, they're just getting wrecked. And there hasn't been a good opportunity to scrim for like any team. Apparently scrim blocks have been very spread out too, where these other regions have realized that, who do they get the best value bang for their buck for as far as gameplay? And if you can't boot camp in Korea before this tournament like they would do in other years, like you don't get to play B tier Korean teams for like meta prep or for understanding this stuff. You just get to surprise, get thrown into a best of one against like one of the top 10-ish teams in the world and get absolutely slaughtered, and that's what we're seeing.
So I want to like timestamp this or whatever. Given all of those points, next year when it's all here in North America, those arguments can't come up. So like
they will though. So the problem is if it's in America, will they still boot camp in Korea?
No, that's what I'm saying. So what they need to do is these North American teams that are going to use that as an excuse with all the flex money, you be accommodating to those teams coming over. You book them nice hotels or whatever, and you say, hey, we're going to get you this stuff. We're going to scrim, and we're not going to look like absolute ass this Worlds, because there's a lot riding on this as far as like local currency goes. So like they better solve that when they have the opportunity to solve it, because like that's such a weak excuse. I still
think they need to go to Korea before the Worlds in America.
Sure.
Like you fly over for like 3 weeks, you play against B tier Korean teams, and get some actual gameplay experience, I guess, because it's pretty unacceptable.
Scrimming against teams 5, 6, and 7 in the LCK would have been better scrim experience than scrimming against HLE. I'm just going to keep shitting on HLE.
Yeah, just go for the LPL, man. There's 30, 40 teams in the LPL, and you can't get some scrims.
Like,
well, see, IG won't scrim in off season though. Like it's more the fact that like who can you play from B League, even not even from the main league. Like, sure. Can you go over and play against the challenger teams or like the academy quote unquote teams in Korea or in China? Like, just play against those like training rosters. The teams who, by the way, Faker plays against. Like, one of the other things that's called out pretty highly in this tournament, right, is this tournament is filled with Faker's B team of like, who has gotten the privilege of getting bodied by Faker like at various points in history. Because like almost every team in this tournament has former scrim partners of Faker from the T1 or former SKT organization.
So let's run back to the teams real quick. Of the 03 teams, that is Fnatic, C9, and DFM, are there redeeming factors for any of them, and why are you going to talk to me about DFM, Eric?
Because Ari is really good. DFM,
they had a shot today.
They're kind of like HLE, wherein their mid laner is really solid, and their top laner is good on power picks, but if he doesn't have his specific champions, he's kind of weak. Their big weakness is actually their bottom lane and their jungle, and and they just sometimes get really caught out. And speaking of weak mid games, they can completely lose sight of things, and then they're reliant on Arya to have like absolute carry performances, specifically on Zoe, to really show up. His Zoe damage in that 100 Thieves game was very scary, and so like if any of those three teams has a chance, I really think it's DFM at this point. 100 Thieves haven't looked strong, so it's like
Thieves have a win. We're not talking about them right now.
Yeah.
Fnatic, C9, DFM.
I think DFM has the best opportunity to win games. Cloud9, I think, is in deep trouble with current form, and the fact that Odoamne has already had his Dyrus experiences. So I don't think they have a chance in getting games at this point. And also Rogue always look better as tournaments progress, and they get to have a chance to lose to more things. And then on the flip side, there's Fnatic, and Fnatic are just in a very tragic spot. And all the teams in their group have including HLE to some extent, have shown up to play. Yep. So
it's not coincidental that HLE's one game was against Fnatic. They're just not without upset. They're not the same. They're not a world's level team. They're just not, and that's sad. But it is what it is. Like, and C9, like, we knew C9 were going into a group where they were probably going to get third or fourth, and it is not really a shock that they're going to get fourth. It's probably not that much of a shock that they're going to go 0-6. Let's just be realistic.
No, this was a terrible group. Like, this is the best of the best.
Yeah, and it's I am optimistic about DFM. It's also like you look around and you see that we have already talked about 3 of the 4 teams that have come out of play-ins in HLE who's gotten a win, and C9 and DFM. It's not really that much of a surprise that those 3 teams are 3 of the worst-looking teams thus far, because they did have to go through the play-in. They did finish lower in their leagues. It is good that LNG has shown up and played well. They got a pretty good group draw to play with. And like that is what it is. So I think that it's notable that the 4 teams that came out of play-in, LNG is the only one that's playing that well. So there was no play-in buff this year. Anyway, to flip it around, let's talk about the 3 undefeated teams. So you have Dom1, Royal, and EDG. I don't think any of those are that surprising. Eric, how have you felt about Royal?
They've gotten to get away with their Xiaohu nonsense so far this tournament. He's had his Syndra game and his Lucian game already. And with Lucian being a 3-lane flex for Royal is very scary. So you should ban that. Just as an idea. It's not good. And I know it sucks to ban champions against Xiaohu, but like you should ban champions against Xiaohu.
Because like he can play meta tops too. We've seen it. And in the one game he hasn't played dumb Thrash, but he's also gonna keep picking dumb Thrash when he knows he can get away with it against you. Yeah, what he did in the LPL, and they won a title. They won MSI.
It feels kind of bad too in some ways, because like Hanabi is definitely the top laner in this group who I would expect to stand a chance, and then him getting the unfortunate Syndra game was pretty brutal. But I don't see PSG Talon and River I don't see River and Maple being willing to change their gameplay enough to be able to deal with it. So like they're getting out of this group pretty uncontested in first seed.
Yep.
Which is which actually, depending on how some of the other groups go, might be a mistake, which is really funny. But like if they want to avoid playing EDG and Dam1 first round, like,
because I don't think it is a surprise that EDG and Dam1 are undefeated. They came in as probably 2 of the best 2 teams in the world, if not the top 2 teams in the world. Dam1 won their game with FPX. First game of the tournament, and looked good doing it. FPX hasn't looked 100% yet, which is unfortunate, but not that surprising. I think the second game between FPX and Dom1 is going to be really interesting, just to see if FPX has solved the riddles that they often tend to try to solve as they develop through groups. But I like Dom1 and EDG going 6-0. Pretty easy result to have predicted going in if you were to have thrown that in your pick'ems. It is not a shock that we are on the way to that as it stands. Is there anything that has drawn your eye from either of those 2 teams, Steven?
Just hard winning, lots of lane, like it's just skill.
Filmmaker good.
Yeah. What? One of the best mid laners?
So like one thing that I'll call out as far as that goes is it looks like the same damn one. Whereas sometimes they in early game, but it doesn't matter, and it still looks like that. So it'll be interesting to see them play teams that aren't FPX, who might pressure more in like in lane, because they have looked shady there, and it just hasn't mattered. Like this is a beatable team.
Yeah,
It's not with these teams.
but I think there's something to say
that's the
about.
thing you got to call out with Damwon is their bot lane was the problem all year. We talked about that extensively on this show, that their bot lane was tragic. They got subbed out. They rotated people around the roster. Ghost looks like he's playing better again. And Beryl is the best Yuumi player in the world. So their weakness is a little bit sealed over for now.
As far as like individual players, but at the same time, looking weak early can be like, hey, we actually went for a play, rather where a lot of these teams will just roll over and not take these opportunities to try to play. Yeah, it didn't go well, but like we know when to rein it back in and not keep overcommitting in that same like pace. And that's where I think like the game knowledge and skill gap is coming through for them. Yeah, a team might be able to exploit that, but consistently, I don't know.
I really want to see, just to think forward, I want to see Damwon PSG in quarters. I think that'd be a really fun matchup. And I think PSG would probably take a game off them. I don't think they'd win, but I think that'd be a fun matchup. Eric, I have to ask you one question specifically about EDG. How does it feel after all these years getting to see Flandre pop off on the world stage?
It's great. It's a little bit frustrating that he's gotten to play Graves 2 of the 3 games. I want to see more Flandre nonsense, and I know he doesn't have to play nonsense. That's been the problem of this new.
He really hasn't had to with EDG.
Yeah, it's you don't like the other. Like it's great watching Flandre get wins though. Like at any level of play, it's so satisfying. I just want to see some classic Flandre nonsense at some point. Like show me the top Azir, show me the like the other classics, but like him getting to play Graves twice is really unfortunate because it really is a very powerful pick in the meta. They've gotten away with some pick bans just based off of the fear factor, where teams like in the T1 game, T1 definitely opted into a very defensive draft, and you can't beat EDG with a defensive draft. They're too good for that. Yeah.
All right.
The other big thing is the assassin meta coming back is really good for EDG. They're actually stronger now than they were at the finals of VLPL. Because Scout is really good at assassins. So like him getting to play LeBlanc or Silas, who's one of his other best champions, or potentially other assassins in mid, is very scary. Because that's actually a better version of EDG than we've gotten to see in the LPL.
Pick one of the 5 2-1 teams to talk about, Eric. LNG, T1, PSG Talon, FPX, or Gen G?
I'll talk about Gen G, I guess. They look pretty good early game. Surprise, surprise. Their mid game sucks still. Surprise, surprise. Like they let TL almost claw back from like a huge deficit and early game for no reason. And it really just looks like they have no idea what to do with gold. They have so much of it, They're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Maybe I just throw it at them and hope that they run away. And that's very unfortunate, but that's what it looks like because BDD's been playing out of his mind. Ruler's been playing very well, but then like they still have no idea how to shot call any single situation on the map.
They are more interesting than they were going into the tournament strictly because BDD looks like 2018 BDD out of absolutely nowhere.
Unfortunately.
Like that probably would have been the first one I would have picked to talk about because just that alone, like BDD has been there and good enough, and that has been good enough to get them to Worlds over and over and over. But even with their flaws, having him up a tier from what he has been for years makes them an more interesting team because I do still trust them in the late game, even if they don't know how to shot call. They know how to team fight better than any other Korean team besides Damwon, and like that having BDD in a form that augments it not just being the ruler show, just immediately spices them up immensely. Also, Rascal's good at Graves. Um, that's an important factor. I would talk about PSG Talon because
that's what I was gonna ask you to
speaking of
talk
mid
about.
laners that have been saucy, Maple is really good. Steven, who has caught your eye on PSG?
Oh, just their overall performance in general, just getting to this day, and like they've won your favor, like overall, just like the ability to, I don't know, just like adapt. I guess I can't tell. I don't know the history enough to see the evolution, but it's just they're performing so much better after seeing them in the past. That that's intriguing to me as someone that's not as familiar.
They're very good at standard League of Legends. So if you put them into
Fundamentals.
so if you put them into a fundamental situation where they have a gold advantage, they can actually win games, unlike NG. So like they actually know how to close. They're very good at solid gameplay. They understand what to do at different points in the game and where map pressure should be applied. They lose when you're up against Xiaohu or like these other teams who have alternative strategies. So if they go up against teams who don't let you play stock League of Legends, they'll flounder a bit.
Is that what you were going to say about a potential Dom 1 matchup for them?
I think that's a really bad matchup for PSG Talon. Where like not only as far as like will they like partially because Damwon has a very similar style, but is much more punishing late game. So it's like you're opting into 35-minute games with Damwon, and that's like straight up lost. It's not good. And yeah, I and with Khan's current form in this tournament too, I don't like that matchup. I would much prefer to play T1, who they have a history of beating. Like Maple's really good at beating T1. So
Historically,
like
that is a fact.
so that would be a much more preferred matchup by me for them to go deeper in the tournament. But like
I think Hanabi against Kana is also a very winnable matchup for PSG, to be honest.
although Kana's looked pretty good so
Yeah.
far too, a part of that's just been the fact, partially that 100 Thieves have not known what to do in this meta. Like someday playing Aatrox is a travesty and shouldn't happen. That to me is a clear sign that they're unprepped for this tournament. And then
It's a
on the flip
shame.
side, there's Arya, who like is very bannable. So Kana's looked really good so far, and it's hard to tell like if a part of it's just that he's gotten two freebies. And then the Flandre matchup was like Jason to Graves, and then getting wrecked. So like it's really it's hard to tell for Kana for me yet. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them after their like 3 game day. Like maybe that'll like put me in a better spot for seeing if he's actually grown. Because Kana is one of the players who would probably benefit a lot from getting good scrim experience against LPL teams. And the LCK and LPL teams do have a lot of scrim blocks with each other. So he's gotten good gameplay.
If you had to pick one NA or EU team that to get out of groups, who are you putting your money on?
NA or
TL
EU?
easy.
Do you believe enough to be a homer? Steven, do you
TL.
believe enough to be a homer? You do?
Oh yeah, easy.
Got it.
They're gonna fix it up. I mean, if anything, like they were in winnable situations in their games. Not the LNG game, but the Gen G game. They could have. There's a different timeline where a couple of those instances went different and they win. I don't think everyone else has that luxury. I guess maybe Mad Lions, but I
I'm gonna
don't
say
know.
I'm taking Mad for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out of those two.
Yep. Eric?
Like
You want to say 100 Thieves? I see it.
I do. I really do.
But-
T1 has looked vulnerable. I'm going with 100 Thieves. Like,
Mhm.
their lack of prep is still really upsetting, and I hope that they have now seen enough footage from how other teams are playing that they can actually adapt. With all 3 games on a single day for round 2, I think they can pick up at least 2 wins, which is what matters. So if they can pick up at least 2 wins in this day, we're in a good spot. Like the shift from 1 game a day to all your games on 1 day is absolutely huge.
yes.
It's like a complete different format. And so you really can't expect everything to continue as it has been into the second half of this part. Like, it's a complete different format. Teams either fall apart or come together on day 2, and so you just have to like see how it falls. And like they're the team who I'd trust most in that situation to be able to come to an advantage. Whereas like Group D is just like so even that it's really hard to like make a call on something changing too much there.
What's funny is there is a little part of me that wants to say Rogue, but I would I would say so more if their games were in a different order because of that same game thing.
The tilt turn.
So because here's how I think it's going to sit down because they're on Friday, they're first. So FPX Dom 1 is first that day. If Dom 1 wins that again, Dom 1 I think almost just
first.
locks first seed.
Yeah.
Right there, then done. Because they go 4-0, FPX drops to 2-2. And then next game after that is C9 Rogue, which I think Rogue will win. So Rogue and FPX would be 2-2, 2 games into the day. Right in there. The problem is they play Dom 1 second. And so, like, unless Dom 1 decides to like run it down and try to spice things up, I suspect Rogue loses that, FPX beats C9. And then even still, they'd be in the situation where Rogue FPX, they could force a tiebreaker with FPX if they can win that game, which I trust FPX to have figured their shit out. And DoinB has put some quotes out there that have said, yeah, we've got our shit figured out. But like that it sets up for them to be able to force their way in if things sit the way we would expect them to. But I don't think they will beat FPX, so I tried, but I can't. My 2 favorite teams are Dom 1 and FPX. Sorry. I hate this group. Makes me sad. I want all 3 of them to get out. Let's see. Other fun things. Steven, as a graphic designer, how have you felt about the Gore Drinker alarm from MasterCard?
Oh, I haven't seen it at all. I've just been like catching like intermittent games. So what is this? Describe it to me.
So I think it's the first mythic item completed in a given game gets a little blue bloop and a MasterCard pop out.
Oh,
and
I
it's
saw
always
it.
one of the junglers getting their Gore Drinker completed.
Okay, yeah, I've seen the MasterCard.
Every single game.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well,
I hope they
games.
charge good for that. Like that's a fun little. I really do appreciate like League of Legends specifically monetizing the actual spectacle of the game. I think it's kind of engaging having that little jingle go off and like, oh yeah, MasterCard, that's a thing. I kind of wish it was something more fun because like I'm really attracted to like the Jimmy Johns and the oh, not Jimmy Johns. Oh, what am I talking about? Jersey Mike's. The Jersey Mike's, where like there's actual like benefit to that sponsorship, where there's like opportunity for us as an audience member to engage.
Cheer for Yale to get wins is because it gets me free food.
Exactly, it's like the Big Mac land for like the Cardinals and stuff, which we all can identify with. It's I like it. I wish there was a little bit more engagement, even if it was just like, hey, like Gore Drinker was finished first again for the MasterCard thing. Like, screenshot this and put it out. I don't know. They can add a little bit more engagement to it for the audience. That's why I like the
Are you going to
Verizon
complain
5G
about
chat.
it being 80% of games that it's the jungler's Gore Drinker is the first item?
Should be more. More.
I know I saw one Gale Force in one game be the first one done. I don't remember any other things. It was just Gore Drinkers the whole time.
Seen a really fast Everfrost, I think, in like one game. I think it was one of the BDD pop-offs, but yeah.
Is this a thing that people are complaining about? I didn't even like notice like it was always Gore Drinker. I was like, MasterCard. That's the thing.
Fancy that! It's always Gore Drinkers. It's almost like this item is overpowered as shit.
It's almost like early game jungle gold is inflated to try and make them be useful at the moment. Yeah. So.
This is why it's always the jungler.
Yeah. So
gank. Don't power farm, please.
Okay, pick J4.
Yeah, pick J4.
Coward.
Yes. I've had wonderful luck with J4. Just have it where you're funneling it into something appropriate. Like don't KS the Draven.
What team released your favorite music hype video going into the tournament?
I can't imagine.
I'm asking.
Oh, Team Liquid.
Go off.
Team Liquid.
You're wrong.
The real Lil Nas X.
You're wrong. You're wrong because 100T got the actual real.
No. Not here.
And also, the Dom1 one was better too because Dom1 has an actual K-pop star that's a fangirl of their team.
I don't like K-pop. I'm gonna put that out there.
Bad for you.
No, it's certainly not.
Dom1 are about to win back-to-back worlds because they have a K-pop star that's their fan.
I hope not. I hope that's not the reason. I hope
they
lose because they have that. Ugh. Riot does not need any more weeb energy. Please stop them.
That's not true.
It's that and the Yumi pick being good, so Beryl can like multitask and actually play League of Legends. Yeah.
Beryl's not playing League of Legends. Beryl's rolling on the new 2.2 banner in Genshin Impact, just like me and you. Is there any other actual League of Legends we want to talk about as far as team results?
No. The 0-69 does make me a little happy.
What do you think the odds are, David, that we have a straight-up LPL versus LCK quarters?
We won't because of PSG Talon.
Yeah. If we do have
not getting out of that group.
If we did have a straight-up LPL versus LCK quarters, do you think Riot should do anything about the format?
So buying you time. What about the format lends it to the LCK and the LPL? Just
well, the fact that they have 4 teams because of MSI performance.
It could also only happen if all of the there are ways that it could prevent itself from happening if like not the right quotient of teams get first and the right ones get second. Like if it's like 2 LCK teams win their groups and 2 LPL teams win their groups, and then the draw goes so that there's no intergroup quarters. I think that might be kind of weird. Which, like, Dom1's going to win their group. Royal's probably going to win their group. EDG's probably going to win their group. And then
Genji's probably going to win their group.
Genji's probably going to win their group. So it'll be 2 and 2. So then, like, if we assume HLE goes out, like, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if then T1 would have to get they would have to get
Gamwon, Genji, or Royal. Yeah.
They'd have to get Royal for it to be not an LCK v LCK game. So like I like that. I don't know, like I don't have a problem with the format.
But
yeah,
I'm just bringing it up because like one of the issues that showed up in past ones is like if we get too many like playoff rematches, so it's oh boy, here we go with DRX versus Damwon again in a best of 5, the third time in 4 weeks. I wonder how this is gonna go. Like that was draining, but like the odds of too many rematches do seem low, so I think it's fairly reasonable.
And it's the fact that even for this year, if we do get rematches, I think that either of the, regardless of how not close they were in the Korean finals, I think that either of the possible Korean rematches would be very, very interesting to watch, as opposed to DRX's sad sacks last year.
All the LPL rematches would be very
would be
spicy.
awesome to watch.
Yeah.
Like, there's no truly weak sauce here, which is part of it. And then PSG being the wild card thrown in, like, I would be fascinated by that. Like, that's the thing, is there has to be a DRX for that situation to happen. And there's no, like, none of the teams that look like they're going to be going to quarterfinals look like they're going to go out there and lay an egg like that. That'll only happen if Mad gets out of their group and runs it, or TL. Because yeah, like if Mad or TL get out of their group and get second, and then immediately get to play Dom 1, yep, you got out at least. Real quick look at the champions. Amumu's gone.
Mumu did get a win today.
It was the first time he's gotten picked in the group stage. The only time where, like, MF is still the highest priority ADC.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the Amumu. MF is good, which is interesting. How have you felt about the 3 games of Ziggs bot lane?
So I was seeing something from LS about how like a couple of the champions who are good into MF are Ziggs, are Senna. I know you're thrilled. And there was one other like Meiji option I think that got mentioned. And so it's like there are champions you can play bot lane into the Misfortune that have a winning lane, but teams have not been opting into it. Instead, they've just been like, I'm going to play Aphelios. And so, like, we'll have to see if they can figure it out. But I do like the Ziggs pick, especially if you're going to be roaming. You just can't, like, int.
Yeah, it's been Aphelios and Jhin have been the most common picks after the MF. And then Lucian exists, I guess, but
He can go everywhere.
if you could get away with jungling him, I'm sure some people would try.
The Lucian and Nami bot lane is still really strong. Like,
Yes.
I wasn't expecting that to stick around as well as it has.
Yeah, Nami's had 4 games. Yumi's had 6 games. We've seen a couple Lulu games. Like, the enchanters are around.
Yeah, once you shave off Amumu and Leona, very appealing options.
Of the 3 main assassin picks, Talon, Viego, Kiana, who are you most interested in seeing more of?
Talon.
I'm actually more interested in Kiana games. Talon looks stronger with the survivability of, because like they've been going the Gore Drinker build.
Yep.
But like I like the Kiana for the team fighting, especially if players are good at Kiana. I think there's more skill expression there. Whereas the Talon is more like, I hope I snowball my lane after showing up after full clearing, and then I'm going to press my buttons, and I have a cat, and then the cat is on me while I come out of stealth, and then pop all of you. And it's kind of boring. So I'd prefer for more Kiana gameplay.
But we've seen
Yeah.
Kiana. Like, that's my thing. Like, the Talon is, like, a fresher take on this, like, assassin jungle. And I like to see him there. Talon jungle has always been something that I would like to see.
You can tell who's the jungler. Yeah.
But, like, I'm glad Kiana's around. I was actually really surprised to see her getting picked. Just because, I mean, she was like a handful of games throughout the year, if that is even a quantified number. But I don't know. Talon's just more appealing to me in this like meta and just more fun. It's just like a newcomer to it. So
Of the 18 different champions that have been played in top lane, who's your favorite?
I'm glad Mad has that Wukong pick. I will say that's going to benefit them continuously.
Look at the whole list so I can actually remember.
Eric, say Sindri, you coward.
It's not Syndra. It's not going to be any Xiaohu champion. Let's be perfectly clear.
And I guess not Graves.
I didn't want to say Graves. But it's not Gwen either. You know, I really liked that Fnatic went for Adam's top lane Olaf pick. And it didn't work, but that's not like the pick's fault.
No.
It's other problems with Fnatic. And so like I liked they went for it. I think that's an interesting gameplay thing. And I really liked the Poppy pick. And so I would like Poppy to show up more. Poppy's really strong in this meta. SKT getting to get away with it in jungle is really crazy. So like more Poppy in these comps. Maybe Poppy support will make a show up too. Give the old Dumbledore special a run.
People thought that's where it was going in that pick ban I saw. Ale Fiora. Ale Fiora. That's the one. That was dirty. Chinese Fiora players hit different. Y'all know it's true. Chinese Fiora players hit different. Oh man, that was a fun game. I enjoyed that. I would also the last thing I will note here before we wrap up. Aurelia is currently 0% win rate, 0-1, but has 18 bans through however many games we've played.
Shane's lost a game, isn't it? Yeah.
The only person who's played her is Jensen. So is she gonna start getting through, or is she too busted to let anybody have?
I think that Aurelia won't get through against a Chinese or Korean team, but will get through against teams where people aren't afraid about it being flexed to mid lane.
I want to see that be the reason a Western team wins a game, is because somebody chooses to not ban Aurelia.
Against like 100T. So it's like Abadage on Aurelia.
Or Rogue.
Yeah. Or heaven forbid Mad Lions, like give a mid laner who's comfortable on it like that champion. Yeah.
Boy's dogging my boy Jensen. Why are you doing this?
Like there are picks
boosted.
Man, he's like, oh my god, I can't.
There are picks where he looks good, and Aurelia was not one of them.
No, I'm so upsetty spaghetti.
Anyway, speaking of Steven being upsetty spaghetti, watch Duo Lane.
Yes, you can see my tears, the freshest tears, crying down across my face. It was so bad. The game was so bad.
You guys watched, what was it, the TL Gen G game today?
Yes.
To review it?
Yes.
Don't sound so excited, bro. It's content. Your tears are my content.
Yes, yeah.
I will consume them.
Speaking of consuming, you should go to the Funky store and buy some merch, so I can use all of the extra shirts to wipe. Every shirt order comes with fresh tears from me and all of my Team Liquid sorrows.
Instead of selling his bathwater, he's selling you his tears.
My gamer tears.
Gamer tears. Eric, what you been playing?
Well, we did get to play some League of Legends, and I lucked into getting to play Lux and Annie and Blitzcrank on Howling Abyss. which is like, my 3 best team fight champions. So that was nice. I like when that happens. So that was great.
Steven, what you been playing?
I also played on Howling Abyss, but I didn't get champions that I like too much. But I'm about to start my 48-hour grind to gold at the end of the season. Where I'm just gonna rock Jarvan because Jarvan's fucking busted in solo queue, and especially if you get some kind of like duo lane that you can funnel gold into. So
Like Draven Pike?
Anyone that is can pilot their champion and can do damage and click with their hand on the keys and on the mouse, we're good.
Eric, we're gonna play Tristana and Mumu and really test if we can click our buttons at the same time.
Yes, do it.
I can go forward. That is one of the things that, like tactical, I have the capability of doing.
That's why you play the Amumu with it. Amumu can also only go forward. I don't play support at all, but I can play Amumu and Leona, and we'll just go in.
Yeah.
I'll look like a world's tier support.
There you
just go in on Leona and never die. That's how it works, right? It's busted.
Press your keys.
I learned from the broadcast today that if you're playing against an ADC with cleanse, you gotta wait to push your ignite until they cleanse out of your stun, so that they don't cleanse the ignite for free. That's some support facts I learned from the broadcast.
Support facts.
It's big brain. You have to play playing against people who run cleanse into that lane first, though.
That does not happen in solo queue.
It sure doesn't. I play cleanse ADC sometimes. It doesn't matter because I still die. Anyway, yeah, if I were to play some games, I would probably just be playing Poppy because I play Poppy and that's what I do. Y'all like to play your Dasher champions? Good luck with that. All right, we've done the plugs. We've talked about the stuff. The next time we talk to y'all, we will have a playoff bracket to talk about, and we'll be nearing the end of the season.
Yeah.
So it's happening. It's getting there. Do y'all see any true surprises coming out of groups over the next 4 days, or are we just getting chalk?
We're getting TL through, baby. Let's go.
No, we're not.
Yes,
No, we're
we
not.
have to.
All I expect is more disappointment.
And the West is going 0-6. That's
so upsetting spaghetti.
I think it's happening.
You hate
But
to
I
see
think
it.
it's going to be because of Rogue losing a tiebreaker. That's the called
Oh.
shot.
Oh.
I think Rogue are going to get the tiebreaker and then get ass blasted in 23 minutes.
Clip it.
Yeah, there you go. That's my bold take for the first day. You watch it. They're going to beat FPX in that 5th game, and then in the run back, they're going to get blasted. So there you have it. There's been reaction time. That's Steven. That's Eric. We'll see y'all next week.